Wow. So here we are with the Top Dog guys.
Morning.
Good morning. We have Ryan and Josh. I don't know how to say Ryan's last name. I was joking with him earlier. I was calling him Knapp.
That's Ryan Knapp.
So the K's silent.
I'm sleepy.
This is
Like taking a nap.
the K's silent.
That's
so
right.
you guys just told me you guys are taking the day kind of chill. You got a big week ahead of you and whatnot. What people may not know about, I guess, Triworks and Top Dog, I feel like we keep crossing paths, right?
Sure do. That's a beautiful thing.
It is, but it's been good every time it's happened. I've made some notes, man, like history, 2019, all the different places we've been. Everybody, there's a lot of buzz right now around the 914-pound fish that you caught. How often do you think about that fish, man?
It's certainly one you remember forever.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's hard to it's hard to try and figure out a way that you can outdo that one.
So I remember, like, on the shore side of things, when you guys hooked up on that fish, I got a phone call, and friends like, hey, Top Dog's hooked up on a fish. And it's typically common, like on shore, like people will hook up depending on who the captain or who the boat is and how long. Everybody immediately starts saying, well, they know what a big fish is. You know what I mean? Like, they've been fighting it for this long, this is going to be a big fish. And all the rumors and the buzz on shore were like, this is a massive, massive fish.
It was.
And they're like, yeah, and then the rumors were, and you never know what rumors are. You know what I mean? Like, rumors are they can't get it in the boat. Like, whatever. You know what I mean? I was like, whatever. Well, honestly, when I first heard it, I was like, whatever.
Yeah, I think we fought that thing for 5.5 hours. It was like 10:30 in the morning when we had a bite, and it was 3:30 in the afternoon when we finally put a gaff in it and spent a couple hours trying to pull it in the boat. And, now, Josh wasn't there for that, but being a part of, the killing the 502-pounder in Hatters, I mean, we talked about it last night. I mean, it's a common reoccurrence now where people will walk down the dock and come and stand right behind the Top Dog and stand there and look at it.
Happened just yesterday.
Try and fathom about how big it really is or how big it really was. And I mean, Josh said yesterday, he said, I've seen a 500-pounder come through that door. I don't know how you could have done it at all. It's
unbelievable feat.
Yeah, so that kind of goes to like square one. I remember you guys were contemplating making the hole bigger, right? So I know you guys have a cool video of telling your whole story on that. Anyways, like going through the soap suds to try to get it through the boat. You guys had come-alongs. You guys had ratchet straps, multiple ratchet straps that you broke the teeth on.
We had everything we tried. I mean, everything on that boat. I mean, you come to learn more after, all the dust settles, and there was maybe some other things we could have tried to do, but I mean.
Yeah, I imagine for me the panic would be I have this massive fish there, and I know Todd mentioned it just shortly in like his interview piece. Like, I would have been so scared just a shark was going to come up at any moment, because you know how that is offshore fishing. Things are everywhere, and dead fish, a little bit of blood
happens quite often. Just last year, one was eaten.
Yeah,
I mean, I got in the water a handful of times to see, not necessarily look around for sharks, but just to see what we could try and do, more. And I mean, it's pretty funny. You get in the water and you have a tail that weighs 150 pounds or better, and you grab it like that, it just pushes you right down under the water. You really realize you're hopeless at that point.
I have a bunch of a bunch of photos of you guys pulling in that day, and like the the classic the tail was just like I mean, you guys. I mean, how many ropes did you have tied to that thing? Because I mean, I think when you guys backed down into the landing, it probably took 30 minutes just to untie the thing.
I think we were looking last night at the pictures, and I think there's maybe 4 or 5 ropes and a couple of ratchet straps and a block system with a rope set up. It was everything we could do. I mean, at that I had Moon Pie working with us at that point, and he's moved on to bigger, better things, but.
Yeah,
he and I at a certain point, I mean, when we were trying to bend that thing's tail up to get high enough out of the water, I mean, we're hanging from the bridge.
Just trying to lift
with
it.
With a rope, trying to pull the rope up and down, and you're trying to get enough out of it, and then Royal was on the other side of the boat we'd pull slack and he'd
You guys aren't small boy by the way.
No, I mean, that's another one of the things that made me feel like I need to hit the gym some more, and then I go, pick up, a 250-pound whatever, and it's like, well,
this is easy.
Yeah. I mean, part of that whole thing is just, the sheer size of it, it laying in the water. And I mean, that's part of what we could have learned. Maybe if try to float the tail of that fish some way, and you get in there and strap a bunch of life jackets on or something. But I mean,
look, kudos to whoever did the welding on the boat. You know what I mean? Like no
tested
joke.
it out.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you guys are like pulling you know, let's be honest. That fish probably before it lost the blood and everything else was probably pushing 1,000.
I
Right?
think the measurements on it brought to 985.
Just short,
Yeah,
just short of the
you know,
grander.
and,
But God, it looked fatter than that.
They never really put all this information out. So, I mean, the fish was 22 years old.
Holy
It
smokes.
was 96% full, meaning, you know, it
was
had, I
done.
think, if I remember correctly, it was 6% bullet tunas and then 90% frigate mackerels in its belly. So she was still full. She had, you know, for all we know, she was down there eating while we were trying to catch her. But, you know, she hadn't lost a whole bunch of the inside weight at all. She hadn't regurgitated anything. It's just what we cooked out of her on the way in with 180-degree exhaust water. Little sizzle there.
A little sizzle in the back end. You guys essentially, I don't want to speak out of turn, but you guys kind of changed the Big Rock in the sense that the tournament would end on Saturday. And then fishing's out, I think, usually at noon. Something going on,
like
2
o'clock.
o'clock, a little bit earlier.
It's an hour shorter.
And then the
yeah.
awards banquet traditionally was the same night.
Correct.
All right, so you guys have kind of changed the way they do that now.
Pushed it a day.
Pushed it a day back. What happened? Do you guys remember what happened? And I'll tell you what happened on our side because it was interesting.
As far as, you know, I mean, I wish there was, you know, I've seen, you know, the short clips of the video of the convention center, but, you know, we got in it like, I think we killed that fish at 3:30. It's probably 5 o'clock before we even started trying to, you know, make ground coming home. And at that point we were, you know, 2.5 hours doing like 17 knots just because I was so terrified of the fish catching water
out,
and ripping
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So when we got, I mean, we left the scales, it was probably
It was late.
9:30 or 10 o'clock. And I mean, you know, then we go around to the marina and then I have to go down and do the lie detector and all that stuff to make sure that
Yeah.
everything's legit and, you know, no issues were there. It was probably, I mean, it was midnight or 1
was
o'clock
crazy.
by the time I had left out of there and gone back. And I mean, just when you got there, just the amount of people that were still at the Civic Center for, you know, or the convention center for me was like mind boggling. And
It was crazy.
hearing an eruption of a crowd, you know, or through the videos that I've got to watch is pretty cool. But
Yeah. Kudos to the tournament for pivoting really fast.
Absolutely.
Right. So they got the stream up for the Civic Center. I remember getting a call, hey, do you have lights? And then also I think a guy in town had him on his truck. So we were scurrying to get lights because we didn't have any lights at the landing to be able to video and capture all those pieces. So we're pulling all the lights in. The videographers and photographers were all in different places.
Yeah, I think there was about people swimming in the water. There were so many people there.
It was crazy. It was crazy. And so, we have some super cool photos from that day. It was just a monster. That thing looked like a dinosaur.
It was.
I mean, it was a dinosaur.
You know, there's certainly bigger ones out there, and I'd love
That's
to think
the
that
crazy
we're going to
part.
find one next week. But
Yeah. So a lot of the stars are aligning, man. Like if we're looking at patterns, right?
yeah, with the Hatteras back to back, and
So the year you guys brought in the 914 pounder, you guys had won Hatteras. That's
correct.
Right. So this year,
we won Hatteras.
all right, all right. So there feels like you guys are coming in with a good amount of steam into the tournament.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of days that we've spent here riding around and, you know, never saw a fish. And then, you know, when you start connecting all the tidbits of information together that all these people feed you over all this time, and you start figuring out what works behind your boat.
Yep.
You have to stay loyal to that. I mean, like a purist almost. I
Yep.
mean, we do the same thing the same way every time. And I mean, I can't go into all the secrets now because we're before the tournament.
Sure.
But maybe next
Afterwards.
week we could talk more about it. We certainly have changed up some of the stuff that we've done in the past with how we'd fish on the boat this year. And, you know, we've had extremely good success with it. I mean, every day we've gone fishing, we maybe
caught.
didn't catch one, but we hooked one.
Yeah.
Every single day we've
Yeah.
I'm
gone.
very fortunate. Had some good fishing this year already.
That's a lot of his. I mean, you know, to be fair, I drive over top of him. My job is to get a bite. His job is to
land it.
hook the bite. I
Hook
mean,
the
his
bite.
job is to hook it, and Todd's job would be to land it, or Kyle. And I mean, you know, he's certainly
Grass has been
dialed
a
in
problem this year, right? Though, like this year, I heard like the
You can elaborate on the grass a little bit.
what's the scientific word for it? Is it sargasm? Miserable, right?
Yeah, no, it's sargasm
Sargasm,
grass.
right? So I
Sargasso.
just call it straight.
Sargasso,
I
yeah.
call it sarcasm grass because it's
Yeah, I mean,
terrible.
there was a point.
It's
I mean,
everywhere this year, though, right?
Yeah, I'll let Josh talk about that. There was a point. I know. I mean, during Swansboro, the Sunday that was, I think it was about a hurricane out there as far as sea conditions. But there was probably a 45-minute stint where I just, I was looking down at him and
He was mad.
I continually was saying, I'm sorry, Josh. I'm sorry, buddy. And I just knew he was cussing me up and down silently. And
What are you going to do about it, man?
Just got to make the best of it, That's what you're getting paid to do, is render a premium service and try to capitalize on every bite you get.
Okay, why didn't you make the hole bigger? So you guys got again. Now you guys are rolling. See, look at the smirk. So you are going to be in the same.
Nah.
Do you have like larger? Do we have a winch on the boat now?
I have a 5,000-pound come along.
So there.
We're better prepared this time.
You've learned this time because like the next year I saw you guys out there like, oh look, that tuna door looks the exact same size.
Yeah, we painted the boat too, and we thought about it, we talked about it, but like anything else, I mean, it's.
You don't want to change anything. Let's be honest.
We love that boat, and we love it the way it is. And part of what will make that boat special forever, as long as we own it or the next people own it, will be that door. Yeah. Now maybe the
so
next
what you're
guy
saying is the thing I love
bigger.
about the boat is any fish over 900 pounds, I know is going to be a nightmare getting it through the door. He's going to be like, get the winch.
Yeah, we have a Sawzall on board now too, so we're going to get her in one way or another.
Modifications have to happen.
Yeah,
we're
that's
ready.
Right. That's
Either going to break the hard top off or it's coming in the boat.
In life, there's nothing more valuable than experience, right? Like, the next one, I don't foresee it being as nearly as many problems. The boating community, though, like there's a lot of radio chatter out there while you guys are there. There are a lot of other captains trying to help you guys. I mean,
yeah, that was something special. I mean, my radios on the boat aren't the greatest. I can only hear a couple of miles typically. Yeah. I mean, and with Randy's big antenna and stuff here, I can hear some of his stuff. But I mean, even that day, I mean, I would get every third, transition back and forth, transmission. I would hear him,
that's stressful.
Oh my gosh,
that's stressful.
You talk about adding a whole new level.
Yeah.
It's like I got the microphone to my ear, try and listen to it.
Am I still
and it's
legal?
Like, I mean, I can't hear it. So,
what can I do? What can't I do? Like the relay of that message, and then trusting those other captains to give you legit info.
What I never did talk about in our last interview was the CTO. The willingness to CTO. I mean. There was a commercial boat that was out there. I don't know the name of the commercial boat, and I got him on the radio and asked him if he had a come along that he could throw over to our boat, and he didn't. And I'm like, what commercial boat doesn't have some type of block and tackle or something more for us?
Yeah.
But that was fine. And Rocky, I could hear Rocky on the Wolverine a little bit, but the CTO crowd, I mean, they got on their boat and they blasted out there. I mean, they met me at the end of the shoal, and he had a come along on board, and him coming out there was just a willingness to throw me a come along because you can't physically I can't touch, but you could throw it into my boat and that's fine.
Yeah. And I remember you guys actually asking about the legality of that. Like, hey, if someone brings us something like that and they come
I wanted extreme clarification on that. I mean, there's
Absolutely.
To be fair, at that point, we knew we'd won the tournament.
Yeah, you
it's
just had
just
to get
a matter
it in.
of exactly. So, I mean, when Randy said, as long as you guys don't physically touch,
you're good.
It's legal. And, when the CTO got out there at the end of the shoal, I was so nervous again about slowing the boat down and that fish, the boat dropping back down, the fish catching the water.
And here we go again.
We just kept right on running. And I asked him, I was like, would you mind getting up next to me and pacing me and just trying to look underneath and see what's going on with this fish? And took him a couple of tries. My weight got him one time, and it was a little bit of a nail biter for him, I feel like.
Because you're pumping a 4-foot wake off that thing, man.
And the faster I go, the less that wake's going to be. But at that speed, that boat definitely throws a pretty big wake. And he got next to me and said, it looks like it's cooking a little bit, but you're good. And I just told him, I'm going to keep right on going. So basically, he rode out there just to tell me that and rode all the way back. And I mean, that goes go back to the willingness of this town and this fishing community and the support that goes along with anybody. I mean, and it could have been any other situation, and none of us leave anybody out there behind, and it's something special that all kind of goes with that.
Does Josh have any special rituals? Like when fishing starts happening, does Josh have any special things he does? Is like, hey, this is what's happening.
Sometimes we'll bend over the transom and give the O and the top dog a good rub down.
That's nice.
Good luck, omen.
Nice. What are things that are not allowed on the boat beyond
bananas?
Beyond the bananas, are there any other weird things?
We all have our own little superstition stuff for sure. I mean, matching clothes sometimes.
Wait, what?
Yeah, we'll all kind of wear the same shirt. So I mean, for example,
if someone doesn't wear the matching shirt, you're off.
In Hatteras, I mean, I don't want to make it sound bad, but the boat owners are the boat owners.
Sure.
the crew is the crew.
Sure.
And so, Josh and I spend copious amounts of time together.
Yep.
And, so in Hatteras, we were staying in our own hotel room and all that. And it's like each morning I was like, well, I'm going to wear this shirt. And he's like, I got that shirt. I'm going to wear that shirt too. So, every day in Hatteras, now I had a sweatshirt on because it was cold and it was really rough up there. And it was wet and all that. So but underneath the sweatshirts, Josh and I, all the days we fished, had on the same exact
the
shirt.
great thing about all that, though, too, is so if you don't catch, if something happens, it's never your fault.
Well, Budweiser coined that phrase. It's only weird if it doesn't work.
Yeah. It's never your fault. Be like, no bite. It's the owner's fault. They didn't match us.
Exactly right. So, Todd's got his lucky shoes, and
still got the same ones from 2019 on the boat. They haven't left.
He brought a new pair of shoes, and in the
Swansboro,
he said, I'm going to try these things out, but I'll throw them over if we need to. So,
That's hilarious.
And, it's certainly, we just... you have to have fun before you go out there and do anything else. You have to have the mindset that you're going to go out there and you're just going fishing. And anything that happens outside of getting out there and getting back safely is a bonus.
The physical that's required to do something like a fish like that. I know, like in your guys' long video, there may be a couple of small pieces of it, but the long videos we have of Todd talking about reeling that fish and then the aftermath to his body, I can only imagine correct me if I'm wrong, but he woke up the next morning, like in the floor of the back of the boat. He was so thirsty he couldn't walk.
Yeah.
So he crawled and he just passed out.
I believe me, I was driving the boat, so I had the least amount of, I call it physical activity that day. But I know Moon Pie and I, besides the fact that Todd did what he did for 5.5 hours, Royal helped out too, but having Todd's as part of that, I could hardly walk when when we walked back over to the Big Rock Landing the next day. It was moving like a.
He said the harness was pulling. Man. The harness was pulling so hard he felt like his pelvis had just been crushed.
We pulled drag the next morning on that reel, just out of curiosity to see where we were. We don't really pull drags on the. There's a lot of people that'll pull drags, and there's a lot of people that are a little bit more old school and just we call it the 2-hand test. If it takes 2 hands to pull a line, it's good enough.
Yep.
And when that line's running, if it's crackling coming off, you have enough drag on it. So. The reason for that is it changes every day.
Sure.
So, you're in the sun, it's hot, and then the salt water beats on the reel, and then it's hot again. So, it's kind of, for me, wasted effort where you could be putting time in somewhere else that could make
like pulling the right spread.
Exactly.
Or having keeping everything clean, keeping the grass out of everything,
It's just, these guys and these mates, they're so good these days. They know what they're doing. They know when it's enough or when it's not enough. But for Todd's sake, we just had to know roundabout where we were. So we pulled it on the wind on, which is, the closest to the fish. At that point when we get our wind on, we fish actual wind on. It's not 30 foot leaders. So, we're 8 feet from the fish. When that swivel touches the rod tip, it was 55 pounds of drag. 55
pounds of drag. Takes 55 pounds of pull before it starts leaving the reel for those people at home that don't understand.
And that's when the spool is the spool's full size. So when the spool is 2/3 gone.
More.
You're 70, 80 pounds of drag. And that fish was just down there just
plus
happy.
The drag of the line going through the water as the fish is swimming.
Did you memorialize that rod and reel, or do you still use it?
I don't even know which one it is. We still use it.
Okay.
we definitely still use it. Like anything else, if we're not going to change the door, we're not going to get rid of the reel.
Did you change the line on it?
Oh, yeah. We changed the line, basically almost every tournament. To be fair, it does get costly, but when you're going out there and you're throwing up the kind of money it takes to get involved in these tournaments, and then targeting what I still call a unicorn.
Yep.
You need to be able to catch that unicorn.
You don't want the reason not to catch it because you got cheap on some line.
You copped out on $600.
That hook's good. It'll go one more and then it just breaks.
This is it right here.
Tackle failure is not an option.
It's not.
No.
His job is to make sure that everything never
perfect.
happens. Yep. And we certainly, I feel like all of our connections, there's a handful of people that do the connections that we do. If your connection, between your swivels and everything is as hard as ours, when you basically have to get bolt cutters to cut it apart,
it's crazy.
That fish should never be able to break it. The only way it does break is if it is a tackle failure on either the line breaks or somebody forgot to do something. Which
do you ever get nervous? Be honest.
No.
Never.
I've spent time
testing. That, a fish that size, they're apex predator out there, in a lot of different ways. So having them beside for me, I'd be nervous as crap. Like you got to make sure you wind it right. All those little pieces, everything can go bad quickly.
Yeah, I know in the morning when I put my stuff out there that it's 100%. I put every hook on a cleat and wrap it around my body and lean back into it as hard as I can and just really double, triple check everything. So I know when that fish bites, it's up to the angler pretty much at that point.
That's cool. Well, you certainly have a story to tell for the rest of your life. Now,
sure do.
Now the next goal is to one up it.
That is that 465-pounder on day one, too.
True story.
I mean, it's so funny. I mean, now you go back the year before, if I remember correctly, and it's been a little bit. That fish would have stayed on the leaderboard for the whole week.
Yeah.
And, we were on the leaderboard for 15 minutes. It was mind-boggling. Now, to be fair, I was happy at that point. I know that Todd was happy. I know Moon Pie was happy.
Weighing the fish is everything.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to back your boat into the Big Rock Landing and successfully have done that in this tournament amongst all of these spectacular fishermen is the ultimate goal.
Yep. I remember you guys actually. I remember looking at the footage of that. You guys coming in the first time and being super pumped, like Moon Pie jumping all over the place, and then the secondary one though, yeah.
We were a little bit more tired, but we were still pretty excited.
Oh, my God. Yeah, well, you guys backing in, and Todd was, pumping his fists and all that stuff. You guys knew you had something special. I have never seen so many people down there at the landing, even with the celebrity we had last year. Yeah, I mean, it was packed. Like, I know for us and, like, our gear and stuff, I was a little freaked because, like, people all around our bags. I mean, it was – I don't think everybody wanted to touch the awesomeness
from Yellowfin's restaurant, or from all the way down there at the end of the waterfront, all the way. I don't think you could have fit another person.
It's crazy how fast that word traveled. No one has seen it, but the rumors were real.
There was enough time for the build up for sure. Yeah. That I mean, there was enough people that were here for families and everybody else that come to support all their husbands and and crews that are out there trying to win this tournament. And then, just the added influx of all those people.
I was so nervous, I was so nervous for you guys when they had to weigh it twice.
I was pretty nervous about
that
myself.
God. I was so nervous.
Now, again, I will say, and I wish I would have taken some better pictures of it. That fish was whole.
It was.
It wasn't, it wasn't a chunk missing out.
The
skin was burned off. I mean, it's just like getting a burn on your skin. It burns up and bubbles and goes away. But, I mean, it sure does look bad in some of those pictures. But, I mean, truly, like, that fish was still completely
Yeah, but you don't know,
there.
Even, coming out of it, you don't know the damage, pulling. So you had this massive fish. And I remember it came in there. I mean, everybody was just kind of
boat.
Exactly. Everybody's kind of like, all right, now what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to kind of get this thing?
Yeah, that was justification for me when it took 4 or 5 guys to get it out of the boat. I was like, well, now I know how hard. I know how hard. They know how hard it was to get it in the boat too. And Randy Ramsey came up to me as soon as we got in, and he talked to me and told me some really cool things that I'll never forget, and I'm forever grateful to him about what he said to me. And it's just, it was educational and it was also supportive all in one. And he's just, what he does for this tournament and what really the whole committee board does is truly amazing. There was one person that had one thing to say to me that was, somewhat a little bit negative, and I cleared the air real quick, not in a bad way. I just said, basically the question was, what happened to the fish? And I looked at him and said, you saw how it came in. Like, what are we talking about?
Questioning the legality
just
and
whether,
if he mutilated it, the prop,
exactly,
all the
something
other
like that. And,
debunking it.
The definition of mutilation is something that inhibits a fish that's from fighting at its full potential prior to gaffing.
Yeah, not post.
Had you nicked it with your prop or something else.
Yeah, it's different.
And that's actually one of the things that Randy came up and told me. That was one of the things that he reminded me. And, just in that moment when you have all this emotions going through your mind and you're
people
as high as you can get, and then you're as low as you can get. It's nice to have that person, I'll just use like that father figure come over and put his arm around you and say,
haters are going to hate, man.
That's it.
Haters, that's like the classic term. Haters are going to hate. The moment they can't be too good to be, it's too good to be true. They hit the prop, whatever.
Yeah.
What's up.
We definitely were concerned about that happening a couple of times. We were trying to run that thing through the door. I mean,
I'll be honest, so we've made some posts with that on social media, and that's always, how's a mutilated fish make it in the tournament? Or in the tournament, people saying it was a prop that killed the fish and none of those other messes. No, that's not what happened. When you drag it in, cooking the back of it all the way in from offshore.
It was a long lie detector test, I can tell you that. And that's okay with me because I knew we were in the clear, but it sure was.
It's stressful.
2.5 hours, 3 hours, and I mean,
you have to be.
Yeah, I mean,
the integrity of the tournament's everything.
It's a lot of money up there for what's going on, and I was completely, I knew the truth. I mean, I'm adamantly against cheating, and I know that there's unfortunately people that do it, and there's a lot of people out there that won't do it. But I mean, every tournament to this day, as long as I've been on this boat, it's like the before we put lines in, everybody comes together, and I tell them, listen, if there's one thing that happens wrong here, regardless of what anybody else wants,
we're screwed.
It's disqualified. I mean, I'll be the first person to do
Yeah.
it. Our reputation, not just mine,
Yeah.
Josh's too.
Absolutely.
It's
Everywhere
forever.
you go, man.
Forever.
Everybody still knows that kid that didn't have the fishing license.
You can't ever. I mean, there's been some issues in White Marlin
Yeah.
Open. There's
Yeah.
some of these big tournaments.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of following to this, and you can't ever be. I'm never going to be in that gray area.
Yeah,
I'm always.
But
gonna be
that's
on that
kind of like
clear side.
that's like the unwritten law amongst fishermen. Like, is that honesty, the integrity, helping each other out? A boat breaks down, everybody's coming in to scurry to
right.
take care of that.
Absolutely.
Fishing aside, competitiveness aside, it's always that.
Hatteras 2019. That there was a Buddy Davis that had just left a boatyard in Oregon Inlet, and they did a complete refit on the boat. I mean, it was absolutely a gorgeous boat, and they ended up having a delamination on the bottom of the hull, and there was 12 or 15 boats that stopped on their way out to go compete,
make sure.
and offered anything they could do to try and save the boat, take the people off, anything. I mean, that's
Even last year when
That's
the
what we
boat came
do.
in, hit that wave and busted the bow off of it, Shane and his team turned around, make sure, taking sight of it in case they need to bail out, get the people, and
I mean,
it all went
that's what
as
we
normal.
do. I mean, like
everybody looking out for each other. And especially coming up in this week, man, the conditions, first part of the week looked pretty decent. It looks like it's going to get sporty, man.
the last couple of
It's
tournaments
going to
we've
get
had
sporty.
here.
It's
North
been
Carolina at
sporty.
its finest.
God, man, the wind hasn't stopped this year.
True.
It hasn't stopped.
I thought Hatteras
But the
was
fishing's been
rough.
good.
That Swansboro was even rougher.
Scary.
I mean, my God.
What was it? Mark Chambers, like the one guy on Sunday by himself.
He went on Saturday. and,
Saturday. What was he thinking?
I mean, he to go out there and win. I mean, to
Whatever.
be fair, I think
true.
he probably was the smarter of all of us. I
Probably.
think Saturday was.
Better.
It was better than Sunday.
I
Definitely.
mean, Sunday was all you wanted, and then about 4 feet.
No.
I mean, you'd watch a wave. I mean, everybody
No.
was out there can imagine, but I mean, when you're looking,
You can't
when you're
imagine.
standing-
Actually,
when
you
you're standing
can't.
on the beach looking at waves and
not the
waves that
same.
people are surfing. You just think that wave rolls and rolls, rolls, and then it starts curling and curling. Waves were doing that 3 and 4 times before they'd smack you sideways.
No.
And I mean, you'd see a 10-footer coming for.
The thing is, so when these boats are in at dock, right? You're like, that boat is massive. Then you go offshore, right? You go offshore and you're like, that boat just disappeared.
A needle in a haystack. We
It
were
is.
talking. I literally will say I
is.
had a boat called the Waste Knot. Michael Tickle was the captain of that, and he was ahead of me. And I mean, he'd go down in between the swell, and that boat has
Gone.
a big tower on it. You could basically see the buggy top. And I told him, I was like, you just disappeared. I can't
Look,
even
man.
see you. And on top of it was rough. It was blowing,
Got news for
30
you.
knots, and it was raining.
That's loving to fish.
Oh,
I'm telling you, that's loving to fish or just loving to be competitive, because I'm
Little
telling you,
both.
like, I love to fish. I
Absolutely.
like doing that. That day, Josh is staying home. I'm not.
we talked about it. I mean, we got out there, and
My name's Josh. His name's Josh. The Joshes might be staying home.
Yeah.
I mean, I was out there. We was probably 11 o'clock in the morning, and we'd been out there for a couple hours. And I came downstairs, and I just looked at I only had Todd, the boat owner. Well, they're brothers that own it, but I had Todd and I had Josh. It was just 3 of us on the boat. We keep fishing with the skeleton crew. It's something,
Yeah. It's
it
your.
works.
It's what
And
you
now
do,
go
man.
Back to little weird stuff. It works. In
Yeah.
skeleton crews.
You-
but
who needs more people when you have a 5,000-pound winch?
that's it. That's about 5 people right there.
That's it.
And it takes up 12 inches of
Cost
space.
effective.
So
Buy more fuel.
I came downstairs and I told him, I was like, guys, this is pretty foolish that we're out here. And Todd was like, hey man, turn around,
go.
let's go home. And I was like, we're here now, but it's foolish.
But him to be able to give you the freedom as the captain to call it when you need to call it is key, man.
He's,
know what I mean?
I'll defend him through and through with that from day one. Todd certainly has funded a lot of my experience growing from a young captain to what I'll just now say as a captain of a boat. He's never, ever to this day, from the time he hired me to now, questioned what I do, where I'm going,
Yeah.
why I do it. He lets me go be me. And now I can't say we've had this crazy amount of success over all, these 8 years, 9 years, but we've had a fair amount. We've made, well north of $1 million in tournaments. And he just is, when we're the one boat that's 10 miles from everybody else, he never has.
Never questions it.
Never
Well,
says,
why are
where
we
are all
over
the
there?
boats? Why are we here? He truly believes in me, believes in Josh. He believes in all the other mates that we've carried on the boat. It's just, our job is to go out there. Again, my job is to go out there and find a fish. His job is to hook it. Todd's job is to catch it, or Kyle, or whoever else we have. And
We always forget about Kyle.
unfortunately, I keep saying Todd.
You know-
just
no, because we-
but
Yeah.
I mean, we have a handful of guys. We have. I'm not going to go into names, but we have
Yeah.
a crew of maybe 10.
Yeah.
That kind of revolve around. Todd's almost always there.
Yeah.
Kyle was there.
I'm gonna say Kyle had the most stressful probably job during the when you guys were hooked up and trying to get the boat, because Kyle was back in Maryland, right? And Kyle couldn't do anything. As people at home, Kyle has another had jobs still at the time, and he had obligations.
Correct.
And his phone was buzzing nonstop.
Oh, I can only imagine
about what's going on.
Like.
And he was in a situation where he could not answer, he could not talk, he could not.
That they owned a helicopter.
Oh my!
At that
I'm
point,
telling
so they
you,
could fly out there and scope us out.
I'm telling you, and then they beeline there as fast as they could as soon as they broke free. But I can't imagine being on the opposite end of that, being the brother, And
the only way I could just say that it would be like, being away from, having a pregnant wife and being away from her. You can't get there. She goes into labor. Exactly. You can't get, no matter what you want to do, you can't get there.
That's tough.
But Kyle certainly has redeemed himself, and, missing out on that day. He was our sole angler in Hatteras. We had Todd, and then we'll call him the GM of the company, on board also, and he's part of our normal crew.
Sure.
So we just had the three of them, and Josh and I, and Kyle was the sole angler. He caught every fish in Hatteras, which was 5.
Yeah.
Do you think Kyle will miss a day at Big Rock this year?
I don't think he is this year. He missed a day last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's they're running a business.
Yeah,
and I mean, outside
and it's a big
the,
business, mind.
growing,
outside,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Outside of the boat, they have to,
True.
The business pays for the boat.
Yeah.
So, the bread and butter. I mean,
world doesn't stop during
it
the
doesn't.
tournament.
Unfortunately, now we all wish it could, but I mean, we fish so many tournaments. I mean, we have probably 30 plus days this year.
Yeah.
Worth of tournaments, and you can't to think that you're going to miss. I mean, in their weeks. So Big Rock's a week, White Marlin Opens a week, the Jimmy Johnson tournament's a week, the Pirates Co-tournament's a week, the Mid Atlantic 500's a week. I mean, that's 5 weeks right there. It's 25 days of your schedule needs to be,
completely clear.
And that's just, we have Big Fish Classic, and there's a Marlin Club back home, and we compete in some of their tournaments. It's just
it's nonstop. It's a job, man.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, Todd's very fortunate to be able to almost always be there, but he's
put in the time.
Yeah.
Well, we'll say this, at least this year when you guys bring in the Grander or whatnot, we'll know, like, when you pull through the boat, like, hook it up from the bill and the tail first. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if they've. I don't think they've raised it. Maybe they have. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. But maybe we can find out.
Yeah, I'd love to see.
But I remember being super nervous for you guys as that was happening, and then I was like, they lifted and like, yep, we can't get it off the ground. The bill was still touching the ground for a weight, and then dropping it back down. Oh my gosh, I was nervous. I can't imagine what you guys were at. And then they tied the bill to the tail, and then lifted it up, got the weight, and then you guys went nuts.
Yeah, it was
crazy.
It really is. I mean, you can't describe the feeling. I mean, it's the ultimate. It's the apex of this job. I mean,
yeah,
it's why Josh puts in the hundreds and thousands of hours he has, and why I put in the hours that I have. And our jobs are so different, but so much similar. Also, I mean, he's the one that is making this boat when people walk by and look at it and go, man, that's a beautiful boat, and all the tackle, and I'm the one that's keeping the engines running and the boss happy. And
it's true.
Then,
the job is so much work, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
People, I don't think people truly understand the amount of work that you do, or your job
There's a lot
does.
of behind the scenes stuff.
Not a clue. They just don't have a clue. Every day you fish, the boat comes in, needs to be wiped down, washed, polished. Then you got to rebait, you got to re-rig, re-ice, everything. And
I mean,
it is a massive circle. Like,
when you're rendering the service, I mean, when you're paid to do this as your job year round,
that's it.
You don't want help from other people. So, and I'll just use Kyle as an example. Kyle's always willing to come out there and hand drinks or help set. It's like, no.
This is what I do.
Enjoy your time. This is, you worked hard to get here where you are in life, and it's your time to.
That's good perspective.
A very wise man from here once told me a mate will chamois 100,000 inches of a boat, hundreds of thousands of inches of boat for one Blue Marlin bite.
True story.
It really is. I mean, you can't say it any better way. The amount of, a hook set, for Josh to make, what goes from the lure back to the hook, each one takes him 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Hour, yeah.
And I mean, we have 50 lures. I mean, just the amount of time.
Josh needs to leave. He's got to get ready for next week. You guys
wind dons. I mean, once you catch a fish, you take your leader back off and you make the leader. And we don't do store boughts. We do make our own leader wind dons. So I mean, for him to make a wind on.
So let me ask you this: like going into next week, do you have everything prepped? Do you wait to see what water conditions are before you start? When will you start getting your gear? I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of it set, but like when will you start really dialing in what you think will be the strategy?
I mean, yeah, we'll get out there and I'll kind of assess what the wind's doing and what the waves are doing, and kind of pick lures out that I think are going to run the best in those sea conditions. based on experience and the way the lure's shaped and all that other stuff goes into it.
So you have to have it all rigged up. You have to have it all set. We're not
Yeah.
making custom. Like, no, everything is ready at any moment. So I
Yep.
can. It's kind of like me with cameras. What are we shooting on today? Do you bring everything because you don't really know till you get
Yeah,
Exactly.
he'll
how you want it to
he'll
look?
change one out 2 or 3 times in a day. I mean, to be fair, you change directions. I mean, the sea might be pushing one direction. I
Correct.
turn around and troll the other way, and now it doesn't swim good.
Yep, time
and
to
I
swap
tell
it.
him, hey, man, we have to make a move. We're going to go this way for an hour and a half or 2 hours to get somewhere else. Crank it back in, cut it
up.
off, and put a whole new one out there again. It's
well,
it's
dude,
relentless.
It's certainly a cool story. Like everything about the fishing, the offshore fishing, coming in the next week and even just any day is always just super interesting. I think anytime the general public can kind of see and feel what you guys do on a regular, it's easy to see the pretty boats coming in. If you ever get the opportunity to go offshore in a big boat, you should.
Absolutely.
Because
there's a lot of people that miss out on it.
You miss out on it, and you get to see how hard the mates and the team work together to catch fish. Like
You look at a cooler full of bait. I mean, that cooler
it's-
didn't rig
no,
itself.
it didn't.
I mean, that was
Yeah,
this guy
it
standing
didn't.
there for 2.5
Yeah.
hours, in the hot sun.
And
rigging
then line on,
baits.
all you do is a reel. I mean, it's just fun and games, but it's truly work. It's an art, you guys. You do. I love watching you guys. I feel like just from that first tournament, it's been a cool friendship kind of happen in random
really
weird
has.
places.
Yeah.
Whether we're driving down the highway and there he is, or or hey man, can you come to Maryland and film our story? Great. And then when we're up there, the mounts. Remember the mounts? We never showed the world any of that. Like
Yeah, I have a picture
the mounts, and
just showing him. I mean, he's seen. He's seen my mount, but I mean,
it was hilarious because Moonpie goes, well, Todd, you've got to buy a seafood restaurant now because I have nowhere to put my mount.
anybody that if you walk into Jack's over here on the waterfront, Moonpie, he's given them his mount for a while until he, I'm in my house also. I don't have a wall big enough. The thing about that mount is it's 1,000-pound mount. So
Yep.
when you stick it on your wall, it
wall.
sticks 46 inches off
Correct.
your wall.
So if you go to Jack's, because I've seen it, if you go to Jack's, you will see and this is only
the
the
mount.
front quarter portion.
Shoulder.
This is not a full mount. You guys did get a full mount done
did.
as well, but this is the front half of this fish. And so you go to Jack's, take a look at it, because the reality is, looking at that, you can get a feel for what the rest of it was.
Yeah, it's
Massive.
It really is.
It's
19-inch round tail. I mean, at the base of its tail was 19 inches around. So I mean, that's about a 5-year-old. A little kid. That's about a 5-year-old's waist. I feel like.
Yeah.
To think that I mean,
Where's the full mount?
it is at the company's call it their yard where they keep all their equipment in a sea container because
Because it was so huge. Like, so
you
they
have to get one, but I mean, it's you figure the fish overall length. It was 142 on the short, which is from the lower fork to the bend of the tail. Overall length was 179 inches. So 179. That's like
Yeah, so when
15
we
15 and a half
when we
feet.
filmed you guys kind of surprising Moonpie with the mounts, that full mount was in a double, like 2-car garage. And like the bill was literally almost against the wall, and the tail was almost to the garage door opening. That's how big that fish was.
If you thought the boat looked funny when we backed in, you should have seen me driving back from Florida with, Todd calls me on like a Tuesday. He's like, hey man, what are you doing on Thursday? It's like November. And I was like, I don't know. What do you need me to do for you on Thursday, Todd? He says, I need you to get a plane ticket to Lauderdale and then go get a U-Haul and go to Gray's Taxidermy. He surprised us with, me
You don't
also.
even
but
know. This is
that's
like-
how I figured it out. And he's like, I got us all mounts. So he's like, I go down to Lauderdale. I get the biggest U-Haul truck you can get. And we got, I pull up in Gray's Taxidermy and like the guy's like, you're the one for these? Thank God you're here.
'Cause he
You
had
can
nowhere to
get-
put
you can
them.
Get all these out of here. So, it took us probably 4 hours to load these mounts in this truck, and ended up that there wasn't even enough space on the truck. So, I mean, I rode home with 2 of these mounts screwed through the side of a U-Haul truck. I called Todd. I was like, hey, man, I can't do this in one trip. And he's like, I don't care. I'll pay for the box on the truck if I have to. Just get them home. So we bolted them through the side of the truck. And I'm running up the road with them.
Nice.
And every bump I hit
See-
from Florida to Virginia, it was like, oh.
And I'm thinking he's kind of like he's lining up all those stars too, because he knew we were coming up there to film. He knew his timeline for all those pieces to where all the world collided at that same point. The man's
a
genius.
calculated
Yeah,
person.
that guy's
He's always
back
got a
and-
plan.
he's got a
Yeah.
plan, man.
Might not always talk about it, but he's got one.
Good for Todd. Good for Todd. Well, man, thanks for coming in. Thanks for the time here. Like, it's a super cool story. Like, I can't wait to see the landing. If you don't show up, I'll just rag you hard. Just joking.
That's a deal. Believe me,
No,
I want
no.
to be there pretty bad. I think Josh does also.
Absolutely.
I appreciate what Triworks does, and what the Big Rock Committee again, what all. And we'll go back to what this whole town does for this tournament. It truly is
Special.
spectacular. I mean, we travel around and do so many of these, and the Big Rock in a whole is just it's so far elevated over the majority of these other tournaments. It's something special.
Well, man, Josh, thanks for coming in.
Absolutely.
Ryan Knapp, thanks for coming in, man.
Absolutely.
And we're gonna have to do this again.
Absolutely. Hopefully, at the end of the week.
All right, stay tuned. Later, guys.